Hey y'all, what a delight to be here. I'd like to start with a poem from one of the world's great rascal poets, a feast. This one's called A Hunting Party. A hunting party sometimes has a greater chance of flushing love and God out into the open than a warrior all alone. A hunting party has a greater chance of flushing love and God into the open than a hunter all alone. Thank you, Hafiz.
We're here today with Lee Barnes, lifelong earth steward and environmental activist, founder of the Association of Regenerative Culture. Thank you, Lee. You've been such a big part of the gathering since the very beginning. Tell us how it started and the spirit behind how this came together.
Well, there's a folk legend that Tony Cleese, Dr. McBug, Richard McDonald, and Chuck Marchia came up with this idea of having a summer gathering up in the mountains. They were both involved with various conferences, and they wanted an informal one.
Let's go back to the early 1990s when sustainable ag and organic ag was starting to make big leaps. The barriers to all that were beginning to fall, and people knew that it was actually a viable food production system. And I had chaired the Carolina Farm Stewardship Association, so here's my CFSA hat from back then. For all of you old CFSA people, look at that hat, here it is, on my head. And we're putting it on Tony's ancestor chair here, because he was such a trooper for CFSA. So, long story short, Tony and Chuck came back to our house in Raleigh, and they were so amped up that they were like, we want to do something else. And there was no internet, we didn't have cell phones. It was very important to come to these meetings. You didn't have to sit behind a screen, because there's something that you get when you're really person to person that you just don't get floating heads on a screen. But that's okay too, for what it is. So Chuck decided to start permacultural analyzing my yard. And Chuck was very excited that we had bought this place and we were looking at all this stuff. And he comes around to the south side of the house, and there's a trifoliate orange. And now it's 4 in the morning, and Chuck goes, "Trifoliate orange!" And then we go on and on about that, and he's digging. It's November, so we're digging in the base and we're pulling the oranges out of the leaves, and we take them in and make a really nice orange juice. And we finish up, but we'd stayed up all night. And in the meantime, those guys had come up with the concept of this event. They were the figureheads of this event. They were the yin and yang of each other. And so the CFSA side of it, most of the farmers in the coastal plain and in the Piedmont, this time of year, this early August period of time, also known as the Celts to Lugnasa, was a break in farming. All of the spring crops had gotten out, and the fall stuff, and so there was a little bit of a break, and we wanted all those farmers to come up to Silo and just take a break. And in the meantime, here comes Chuck, so we have chocolate on one hand and peanut butter on the other hand, and we're bringing commercial organic farmers together with permaculturalists. And these guys are staying up. When this happened, the energy of these groups was absolutely insane. And you would be so charged up. And it wasn't just about agriculture, it was about your spirit, it was about healing. If you're coming and you're at a certain stage in your life, there are other people that are at that stage in your life, and you could have wisdom circles. Chuck could be super technical, and Tony could have the other side of that, how to bring that. Those guys could get in front of a group of people and have everybody in consensus after 10 minutes just on what they were talking about. Tony was a fabulous businessman. So Tony could sit down with a farmer out here and say, okay, you have 2,000 hours this year, 8 hours a day, let's go. The guy's going, what? And Tony could break it all down. He would do enterprise budgets for these people, show them how to, do all this stuff. A lot of mostly what not to do. Chuck was the master designer and had the big picture where he could come in and take a piece of land and look at the ley lines and the contours and where the water sources were and listened to the land, and between those guys could come up with a really good sustainable design for people. And so it really became, you know, and of course for me too, having Patrick Battle there, Pat and I would always do a bug walk, and the Pat and Dr. McBug show is coming up, you guys, so that'll be another one that we'll do. And so the very first gathering was there in Silo. Tony and Chuck had gone down in March, and that began the whole thing. And
so we started sending out postcards. You know, this is 31 years ago. You didn't have email. So we got addresses together and sent postcards out. And it's just evolved since then. People started bringing their extra organic produce. So we had the freshest organic produce in the state. Having all this great food, we eventually got professional chefs to come in and help prepare it. We keep the limit small because of the facilities to 100, 120, 30 people. And everybody that attends has to do a couple hours of community service. And everybody loves to be in the kitchen because that's where it's at. That's where the action, they're dancing, they're singing, they're putting so much love in the food. So I used to say it's all about the food, but I realize it's all about developing community. This is the 31st year, and half the people repeat, half are new. And so it's a beautiful combination of the elders being able to share to those people that need this information, and them charging the elders with, you know, why it matters, you know, their appreciation. To me, it's become a ceremonial village, and it's a group of like-minded people that are progressive and positive. I mean, we have some of the best herbalists and mushroom people, permaculturists, organic growers in the whole region. And people keep coming back. I think that's one of the things that makes me the happiest is when the families come back year after year. That tells me we're doing something right.
Actually, you know what? Here's your sweater. Here's my sweater. It gets chilly fast.
What are we potting here today?
We're potting black raspberries that are native to Eastern North America. There are two varieties of black raspberry that are native to North America. There's one in the west and one for the east, and this was growing here when we got our land.
Well, you've got a lot going on here at your nursery and homestead. Tell me how you got involved in permaculture and the Permaculture Gathering.
So I met Patricia Allison, who is my permaculture teacher. She inspired me in Austin, Texas, when she visited our community garden. And I was so inspired, I decided to come see where she was living. And she described this eco-village called Earth Haven, which is next door. And I came to be a work exchanger with her. I was starting to take her workshops and help her organize workshops. And I moved into her house. So that was, I just hopped on the bus and we started going to permaculture gatherings. And
She taught at the permaculture gatherings from nearly the beginning, well,
I think in 96.
96?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That's still quite a while
It's a long time.
Yeah. So my introduction to permaculture was, I was living in Wilmington, North Carolina, and had been working for natural food stores and then the co-op in Raleigh. And I started a business in Wilmington called the Organic Produce Resolve in 1991. And in 93, I drove to a workshop that Chuck Marsh was teaching. And I met Chuck and Peter Bain and Joe Hollis, and I was blown away by these guys. They were truly amazing teachers, and I was inspired even more.
What a great opportunity. And so how many years have you been participating in the Permaculture Gathering, the Southeast Permaculture Gathering, and bringing the family along? That's such a beautiful part of it. So tell me how that experience has been for you as individuals and as a family, what some of your cherished moments are.
I think my first permaculture gathering was 22 years ago. It's 2003 or 2004. We went to Arthur Morgan School, where most of them have happened, and it was just beautiful. I met a lot of people and was able to network there. I went with Patricia Allison, my teacher, and we camped and took all these, classes together and shared. And then I encouraged Otter to come with me, and we took our son, in 2012, and that was like a big world opening. I mean, they ask about it and say, when are we going again? So I think, they love being with children that also are just, back to the earth, and they really enjoy the activities. We'll have to ask them too, but they love Lee's dowsing class, and they are, usually excited to go swimming or go for a walk in the woods, and they love it.
This is a newt and a minnow. They are trapped in a bottle, and I'm going to show you pouring them in. They came from the fondle that I came back to.
We are here today with Wyatt up at Bellyful Plants Nursery, a young gentleman who is growing up connected to the earth and learning all about plants and nature. Tell us what you would like to share about the way you guys live in a permaculture style and what you remember about going to the Southeast Permaculture Gathering.
Well, I like the food pretty good, and I really enjoyed the dowsing in the stonemason class. I learned how to make my own dowsing rod out of straw and metal. And I learned that dowsing rods can answer you questions, and I learned they can point the way to water. And also, I really like that you're interactive with nature.
What are some other plants you like?
We have a gumi over there, and you can see that mulberry tree behind me. And we have some black cohosh and golden seal down there. Oh, and some cherries, and some figs. Oh, and some anise hyssop that's in the greenhouse.
Something we love is anise hyssop. Our son made chocolates with fresh anise hyssop a few years ago, and it's just amazing. It's just such a wonderful thing to come and munch on or smell. And Wyatt, our youngest 5-year-old, he likes to make a little burritos. That's what he calls them.
He has an herbal burrito recipe. Tell me about your little herbal burritos that you make.
Oh, so in the spring, when the comfrey is sprouting very well, I sort of get some rosemary and anise hyssop and other things, and I roll them and I put them in the middle of the comfrey, and then I roll the comfrey up, and it tastes very good.
So what do you remember about the Southeastern Permaculture Gathering? I saw you there and you were having so much fun. Tell me what you liked the most about it.
Oh, so what I liked the most in the last one was where I caught that inchworm.
You caught an inchworm?
Yeah.
And you were playing with some other kids. Tell me some of the things you do. Did you go on a plant walk?
Oh, that time I missed the annual mushroom walk because I was so obsessed with the bug thing.
Cool.
Oh, and some other kids, they got a bug playground, and I got a bug catcher that's down at the house.
So what do you like about living here with nature? I saw you had a newt a minute ago, and you learned so much out here. What's some of your favorite stuff?
I see tons of minnows because I almost always pass by the pond. Oh, and every once in a while I see a bullfrog tadpole, and they're huge, and I saw 7 just this morning.
So is there other fun stuff that you like to do at the gathering?
Oh yes, I love all the classes. The first one I did, did a mushroom walk, and if I picked any edible mushrooms, they would be used for dinner tonight.
That's fun, isn't it? When you can find nice things that you can eat.
Yeah.
They loved plant walks and the mushroom walks.
Yeah, you get that community village feeling, right? It's like a spiritual village community with shared values, and it really does, at least for a little while, embody that sense of a real village setting that we all miss and need, right?
It feels like a family reunion, like a better, like a family reunion with your spiritual family,
Exactly.
right? Because and whether people are new to permaculture or they're there teaching and they've been there from the beginning, it all just feels like, oh, we found our family. And so many people that I've met that they were at their first permaculture gathering, they're just astonished by how amazing it can be to come into a group of like-minded people and learn all this amazing stuff and get excited about going home and applying it.
Yeah, I got to say the Permaculture Gathering is my favorite weekend of the year. It's like coming home. It's just, there's a smattering of Earth Haven people here, a smattering of other people that I never see except for here. And I probably got about half of them in, since 95, that I started coming in 96 or 97. And, I have a 25-year-old, I brought him here when he was young, and he didn't stay for a few years ago as an adult. And now I have an almost 8-year-old, and this is her third one, and she just loves it.
It was so great to just let them run wild. We come up every summer to escape the heat and get up in the mountains and go rafting and just enjoy the great outdoors here. And so it was a big influence on their lives.
So what do you think that kids who don't live near nature, who might be in a city far away from nature, what do you think that they need to know?
Well, I think they need to know the need to protect the environment and not to destroy it. And like the need to plant. And I think this permaculture gathering might very much help them.
Right, showing them how they can do that, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Waya.
I think, they love being with like-minded people, people that they know have similar values. And
The sense of, being with companions that have a similar view of life is very important. And just starting, people come in, okay, there's a core group, informed, but nobody's paid. It's all a core group of planners, and we set up camp, and people come in, and the first thing they do is they go through making name tags. And we have a whole table full of stickers and glitter and glue guns, and some people spend 5 minutes, some people spend hours, but it's a spark of creativity. And that's what the whole weekend is, creativity. So sharing the good meals, we ultimately have adopted and developed open space design, which we basically, within an hour, plan the meeting for the rest of the weekend based on people's wants and desires. People that want to share something, they don't have to be an expert, they just want to focus on a topic, and we break out into these groups, and it comes together very easily. Right? So what I want to do is douse your biofuel.
I'm sure there's a certain kind of it.
Look at all the...
And it can also
Permaculture, before I moved to North Carolina, which I moved here in '82, but I was still living in Ohio, and an old friend of mine had been to Bill Mollison's first tour of the United States, and he said, "Oh, you got to do this, you got to do this." So I attended his second class at Bill Mollison's second tour of the States. And that was probably 79 or 80, one of those years, a long time ago. So yeah, that was my introduction to it, and it was mind-bending just to think about the integration of all the concepts that permaculture is doing. I mean, it's like a holistic bringing together sustainable concepts and from all kinds of directions. So the gathering itself, I believe it was Antonius living in Silo for a while. He lived in Silo for a couple of years. He was doing some farming with Scott Paquin in the early 90s, and that's when the idea was emerged to have this gathering for people around the Carolinas and southeastern U.S. to get together and let's become a family reunion. I guess that's kind of what it was from the beginning, just people who don't see each other too often. We got people from downstate to come up and come up here in the western mountains and chill out for a weekend in the middle of summer. And for those of us who've been going a long time, it is like a family reunion, because there's some people we see there and nowhere else during the year. So the educational component of it is important as well, but really it's just a social occasion more than anything.
Our big event is, well, two events tend to be a mead circle on Friday night, which is very social. And there's stories behind meads. Meads are so much more complex than people realize. I mean, herbal meads with 20 different things in them yeah, and you let them age for 2 years, that makes a difference. And then on Saturday night, we have a drumming circle, which I think is primal. It's about a half mile up from the normal place where we make noise and go late at night. And there's just heavy duty, you know, there'll be a dozen drums or more. One of my most memorable events, we like to do skill building stuff.
Had some great ideas. One was a bamboo sculpture. We built a giant hemlock woolly adelgid. It was 20 feet long, made out of bamboo. Then we carried it up to the bonfire and burned it. So that's a weekend-long project. People had a few minutes, they'd go over and tie some bamboo on, and that was a really fun thing. We also made another bamboo sculpture one time with 2 dragons.
And we moved it up to the ceremonial site,
which we mounted above the fire pit.
And they mounted it kind of half-assed. And the next year, we're just sitting up on the hill, and when the drummers and the dancers were doing it, we were rocking with the dragon. The dragon's head was, you know, dropping 2 or 3 feet. And so it was mystical.
It was really nice.
And that, you know, once again, being around a group of positive people.
Tell me what it means to you when you come up here and experience the people and the place.
Well, I am a permaculturalist, which sort of means that I engage with nature in ways that are collaborative rather than simply controlling. So I have lots of gardens and I stick things in the ground that produce fruit in every place I can, and I appreciate all the creatures that live. Nature's a big part of my life, and to be with people who are also inspired by nature in a common bond of friendship and inspiration and love, and this is really a fun place and a fun group of people. Yeah.
What really keeps you coming back?
I would say it's got to be the food. Now, I don't mean that it's not just the food, but the food's awesome. And by the food, I mean the stories that come with it and the people that come with it. So often it's really just the local farmers that are enjoying the event that are either bringing the food and it was their hands that started the food from seed. And then you were kind enough to say I'm the fire tender, but really I'm the kitchen help. There's nothing more I enjoy than being a part of the whole process. So I spent a lot of time in the kitchen at the gathering and just love the camaraderie and also just we're coming from a common perspective. We're there intentionally building community and building a better world, one that we get to create ourselves. So yeah, that's what keeps me coming back. I'm committed, and that community, the community of the Southeast Permaculture Gathering, is committed as well.